welcome to all our viewers and live audience. Thank you so much for joining our very first episode of Hatfield Sessions. We're so glad you've chosen to join us. Over the next few weeks, we'll be discussing what it means to say yes. Yes to God and yes to His workings in all aspects of our lives. With us today is Pastor Louis Kotze, the senior pastor here at Hatfield Christian Church. He'll be sharing on saying yes to Jesus. We'll then discuss this topic with our amazing panel. Pastor Mabato Barana, a pastor here at Hatfield Christian Church. She's been with us for 14 years. Not only that, but she's a wife and mother of two beautiful girls and always has a valuable piece of wisdom to share with those around her. Joining her on the panel is Pastor Mal Radley, who's also a pastor here at Hatfield Christian Church. Mal has a passion for teaching the Word of God and has led various Bible studies and community groups over the years. But for now, let me hand it over to Pastor Louis, who will talk to us more about what it really means to say yes to Jesus.
Hey everybody, it's so good to be with you today. I know we're going to have a great time together in these wonderful sessions that we're going to join together. I wonder if you've ever thought about the power of yes in your life. How your life and my life is defined by what we say yes to. Think of the most important yeses you've ever said. Perhaps the yes to your spouse, yes to marry somebody, how that's impacted your life. Or yes to having children, or yes to a specific career, or yes to studies, or yes to where you live. We all the time have to say yes in our lives to things. And those things is what shape us, isn't it? That's what makes our lives what they are, is what we say yes to. Obviously, when we say no to something, it also has power in our lives. But just think about it. If you always say no, you'll have nothing. But what you say yes to determines what your life is going to be and what your life is going to end up looking like, what you're going to have, what you're going to enjoy. Now, sometimes we say yes to something and it doesn't work out the way we thought. But it still impacts on our lives. It still determines who we are, how we live our lives. So yes is a very, very powerful word. What should we say yes to in our lives? Now, I want to tell you today about the most important yes I ever said. And that was saying yes to Jesus. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, just, very young, I was given the opportunity with somebody that prayed with me. And they asked me if I wanted to say yes to Jesus. And I made that decision at that young age to say yes to Jesus. Now, what does that mean when I say I said yes to Jesus? Now, sometimes we say, I gave my heart to Jesus. What it literally means is I said, yes, Lord, I want to live my life for you and with you. I want everything in my life to be about you. And it's been the journey that I've been on, is every day learning how to live yes to Jesus. What it means in every aspect of my life to say yes to Jesus. That first yes became the first yes of many yeses, of every day, in every area. And over my life, as I've grown up and walked with the Lord, having to learn what it means to say yes in every area. What does it mean to say yes to the Lord as a husband? What does it mean to say yes to the Lord as a father? Yes, as a son. Yes, as a citizen of this nation. Yes, as an employee. Yes, as a friend. Every area of my life. Because saying yes to Jesus isn't just yes to Him in some areas. Because Jesus is God. And therefore, He wants to have everything of our lives. In fact, you can't give Him a percentage of your life. You can't give Him 10%. Say yes to Him 10%, 20% of your life. Say, yes, Jesus, I'll give you this area of my life, but this belongs to me. This is mine. You can't have that. That's not how it works with Him, because He's God. When I say yes to Him, it's about everything in my life and how I live everything with Him and for Him. Jesus said in John 13:13, you call me God, and you are right, because that is who I am. And by definition, if He's God, everything belongs to Him. And that's challenging, isn't it? I don't know if you've experienced that. How it is like to want to give Him everything, because there's so many things that I want to keep for myself. I think I'm afraid so often that if I give everything to Jesus, what's going to be left of me and what's going to be left for me? Then everything is about him, and then I'm going to sort of disappear, and it's not going to be about me, and I'm not going to have a life because everything belongs to Jesus. We're so often afraid of that. But you know, what we must remember is Jesus made me and he made you. He made you a specific person, a specific way. So he knows you better than anybody else knows you. He knows who you're supposed to be. And this is the paradox. When I say yes to Jesus and I say, yes, Lord, I'm no longer going to be in charge. I'm no longer going to determine what my life is going to look like and how I'm going to live. I'm going to let you tell me how I should live, and I'm going to let you show me what my life should be. The amazing thing that happens is he makes me more like me than anybody else or anything else can be. So while I'm giving everything to him, it's actually the way I find myself and discover myself is when I say yes to Jesus. It changes everything. It certainly is my story, and my testimony is how my life has changed and is still changing. Because every day I have the opportunity to say, yes, Jesus. Yes, Lord. Not my will be done. Not what I want in life. Not what I think is important. But what is it that you know is right for me, is good for me, is the best for me? What is it that you know will ultimately give me life? Better life than I could ever give myself. You will give me, Lord. And so it is this weird thing that we do. We say yes to Jesus, no to myself. But in that way, I actually have the best life I can have because I have to trust him to give it to me. And I think that's also part of it that's so hard for us, isn't it? We think the only one I can trust is myself. The only one that will look after me is me. The only one that will be committed to my happiness is me. And so therefore we think if I can just say yes to myself and yes to everything I want, then I'll have a good life. Then I will be happy. But we have to remember that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. So no matter how hard I try to look after myself, I won't do a perfect job of it. But God is perfect. Jesus is perfect. He loves me more than I love myself. He has more power than I have to do good for me. So do I trust myself? Who has limited power, who's not perfect, who can actually damage myself, who has an incomplete view of things? Or do I trust him with my life, who loves me, who is perfect, who is all power? Who's going to do a better job of giving me a good life, me or him? Obviously him. He's going to do a far better job. That's why I want to say yes to Jesus. Not just pray one prayer and then that's it, but every day say yes to Jesus. Yes, it begins with one prayer, but then it's every day saying yes to Jesus. So over these next weeks, as we talk together in Hatfield sessions, we're going to talk about every area of our lives and many of the areas of our lives and what it means to say yes to Jesus and what are the benefits that we will gain from that and how that will change our lives. So we're going to have a great time together, and thank you for being part of us on this journey.
Wow, powerful stuff. It's now time to ask some questions and unpack what we've just learned. I'd like to ask the panel, does giving my life to Jesus mean I no longer get to do the things I like?
Nemi, I found that when I said yes to Jesus, he fundamentally changed my desires and completely impacted the things that I loved. And actually, I found that the thing that I loved most of all was him. And perhaps I can tell you a story about my son. The cool thing about being a parent is when you get to introduce your kid to new experiences. And we introduced my son to ice cream for the first time, and we thought he would just have a little taste. But he ended up headbutting the ice cream and eating his way to the very bottom of the ice cream. And I felt like when I said yes to Jesus, I tasted ice cream for the first time. And actually nothing really could compare with that. So there was a fundamental change of my desires and of my loves, and he reordered things, and I think I like to think of it that he put things in their proper place for me.
I think that's such a fantastic point, because we live our lives and we think we know the best of what it is that we should have in life. But because we have walked away from God and we no longer live the way that we were intended to live, we've developed some desires and passions that are actually harmful for us and not good for us. And if we pursue those, they will actually, in the end of the day, do more harm to us. And so it's not about saying no to those things only. It's about God showing us what we should desire and finding the fulfillment and the fullness in that. So in that way, perhaps what Nemi is saying is, yes, there are some things that I want to do and I shouldn't be doing, but I actually discover the things that are so much better for me and so much more enjoyable. And so I do eat the ice cream, like, all over my face and everything, because I get it better than what I thought I would. I think that's a great point.
Yeah. You've mentioned earlier on, as you were sharing, that when you said yes to Jesus, you've turned from the things that you used to do. And the thought that came to mind is the fact that, when you do not know Jesus, you do not know that he has a plan for your life. So basically, when you say yes, you are saying yes to his plans. You're saying yes to his ways. And it's only after you have said yes that you discover the plan, that you discover the ways that he wants you to live. And as you say yes to everything, like the examples that you gave, saying yes to being a good husband, yes to being a good son, yes to being a good dad, that says there is something that is guiding you, because he also gives you the Holy Spirit to help you. Remember, this is not an academic yes. It is a yes coming from a place of faith, because now you trust him, you believe in him.
Such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. Let's take our first question from the audience.
I have said yes to multiple altar calls, and how do I know if it's real? Do I need to keep on saying yes? If you can please help me.
I think maybe the first question I'd like to ask is, what are you looking for to change? Because many people give their lives to the Lord, wanting their lives to be better. In other words, to have fewer problems, that life gets easier. And in this way, actually, Jesus is just a means to an end. You want a happier, better, maybe easier, more financially blessed life, and Jesus is the way to get there. But I really think that is completely the wrong way around. Jesus needs to be the end in itself. He needs to be the final goal. And if he's the final goal, then in your heart, when you give your life to the Lord at that altar call, then things will radically change and radically shift.
I think just to add to that, because when I say yes to Jesus, it's not yes to a set of rules or laws. It's yes to a relationship with a person. And just like any relationship in life, it takes two parts to make that relationship work. And the Bible tells us that when I ask Jesus to come into my heart, he does respond immediately. So sometimes I'm feeling like it's not working, or I doubt whether I have given my life to Jesus. It's not him that's not responding. It's sometimes me that's not really doing the right things in that relationship. And that, I think, is to Mel's point, is I don't have the right expectation on the relationship. I want Jesus to do what I want him to do, but it's more about me learning to let him show me how I should live. And it takes the relationship. So I would say just keep on saying yes to him in every situation, in every day. I think there's many people that said yes to Jesus multiple times before it felt like it took. But it's not Jesus that didn't hear it the first time. It's often us that didn't orientate correctly the first time. And so we just keep going, and at some point we're going to experience that change.
My question is for Asma Batu. If I've said yes to Jesus, but I also come from a traditional African background. Am I allowed to blend my Christianity with my traditional African practices?
I presume that your question comes from the practices that that's the way we consult with the ancestors. Remember that when we say yes to Jesus, we are saying yes to authority. And as soon as you've said yes to Jesus, you have said no to another authority. When you used to have ancestors as your authority and you've said yes to Jesus, you say, Jesus, you are now the Lord of my life. You have authority of my life. As I said earlier on, you're saying also yes to his ways. So when you are saying yes to his ways, it means what you used to say in order of authority. You are actually saying, Jesus, you are now my Lord. Ancestors are no longer my Lord, because I recognize that you are the one and only God.
I'd just love to add a thought on that. And for me, just a simple principle is that when my culture comes into conflict with kingdom culture, with the culture of Jesus' kingdom, then my culture needs to bow to the kingdom culture. I also just think to mention that not everything in our culture is bad. There are some things in culture that, or many things that are amazing and that are in line with God's kingdom. And we don't have to say no to those things. We can say yes to those things. But when something stands in contradiction to the Lordship of Jesus, then on those things, we say no.
Amen. Maybe to Louis, when I say yes to Jesus, does it mean I have to give up on things like going to nightclubs, drinking, smoking? And what is your take on cheating and corruption? Well, the short answer would be yes, there's certain things I have to stop doing. But the thing is not just about do I stop doing those things. It's far more about my heart, first of all. Because I can stop doing something, but I actually in my heart still want to do that thing. And then it just becomes an exercise in discipline. You know, I'm not doing certain things because I'm now supposedly a Christian. And my heart hasn't changed. What God wants to do, what saying yes to Jesus is, like we've said before, it's all about changing the heart. So it may be that I have to say, look, I used to, get drunk on weekends. I'm going to stop doing that. But Lord, help me to change my heart and my desire and my need for alcohol. And perhaps the thing is to ask, why, Lord, did I want to get drunk every weekend? What was I looking for? What was my need? Was there something in my life that I found difficult? And this was a way of dealing with it. And bring that to the Lord and ask the Lord to help me change that, address that problem. And then what happens over time is my desire to want to drink too much disappears because God fulfills that desire in my life. So yes, there are definitely things as a Christian that I shouldn't do even if I want to do it. But it's about more than just not what I'm not doing. It's about letting God become my everything, the reason for things. So corruption, for instance. As a Christian, I shouldn't be corrupt. But why would I want to be corrupt? What am I looking for? Perhaps I have a trust in money that's unhealthy and a desire. And I think if I have money, I'm going to be happy. So therefore, I'll cut corners and I'll do corrupt things because I feel better about my life and have a good life. I shouldn't be corrupt, but the better thing or the more important thing to also do is to say, Lord, help me change my relationship with money. You are everything I need. Money's not going to make my life better. You make my life better. And that begins to change me as a person. And I think that's ultimately what I think it's about saying yes to Jesus, is that total thing.
It's also interesting to recognize from various people sharing their testimonies that many of them would tell you that they recognized the wrong that they were doing. which means that they recognized that they were going the wrong direction. And then, by saying yes to Jesus, then they go back the opposite direction. It's like a 180-degree turn in their lives. That I used to smoke, I used to swear, I used to cheat on this person or that person, but I recognize that that is not right. And then you change direction, going the opposite end. So it doesn't become necessarily a debatable question. Should I sin or not? We know that we are sinful, but now saying yes, Jesus has helped me, and Jesus continues helping me. So I will change direction.
When I was 14 or 15, my dad became a Christian, and he was a smoker of a couple of decades. And he became even a community group leader in the church. And there was a lot of pressure on him to stop smoking, because obviously smoking is now not a very Christian thing to do necessarily. But he refused to stop smoking because of the pressure, of being a leader. He said, I'm waiting for the Lord to convict me and to give me the grace to stop. So he was a Christian for a while, until one day he had that moment where he felt like God convicted him and gave him the grace to give it up. And with a lot of grumbling, I won't say it was easy, but he did it, and he kicked it, and he never went back to it ever again. And I think we could never ditch all our habits, all our bad habits in one go, because some of our bad habits we're not even aware of, and we'll be getting rid of bad stuff until we die, because we are broken and sinful. And it's a process, it's a journey. But being a Christian is about being, saying yes to Jesus is firstly about being, and it's about enjoying God and loving God first and foremost, and then the other things will follow. And I love the distinction that is made where Jesus says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's active. It's about what do we actively pursue. We're not focusing on what we don't pursue. We're focusing on what we do pursue. And we're pursuing God. We're saying yes to him. And, just by default, we will end up saying no to a couple of things along the way. But the focus is not on what we're saying no to. It's on what we're saying yes to and what we're going forward with.
Good stuff. Like it. Wow, that's great.
Thank you, Pastor Louis and our panel, for an amazing session full of insights and wisdom. Pastor Louis will be sharing more on saying yes to Jesus live at Hatfield Christian Church East and South this morning. Join us in person or online via YouTube or our Facebook page. If you'd like to learn more about what it means to be a follower of Christ, you can check out our website at hatfield.co.za. There's a lot of resources and further contact information to get you started. Till next time, stay blessed.